It's ball talk. It's ball talk, baby. 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 Baby.
Hello and welcome to the Ball Talk podcast. I'm your host, John Sock, and as always, I'm joined by my main man, Chaz Jurgens.
You know who it is.
And today, we're blessed to be joined by IMG's technical director, Coach Mike Gillian. Coach, how are you doing today?
Hello, John and Chaz. I'm doing fantastic. We've got beautiful weather here in South Florida. It's raining. A little bit of stuff moving all these kids around that are in camp, but otherwise doing fantastic.
I had rain at camp today too. It was a hectic day, but hey, you take it over the just humidity and the straight heat all day long.
There you go. You could not be in the gym. That would be a bad thing.
Now, for the viewers, Coach G has almost 30 years of coaching experience at both the Division I and II levels. He boasts the best record of any coach for the Longwood Lancers Division I program. He coached multiple teams in the NCAA tournament, the NIT. He's won 120 games over a 6-year period at the American International College. Coach Gillian was a color commentator for a little while, which is something that I find awesome because I would love to do that. And he's now working at IMG Academy as the basketball program's technical director, and that is one heck of a resume right there.
All that means, John, is I've been around for a while now, so you can't do all that stuff in 5 or 6 years. So it's nice to be able to say, oh, there's a long career, there's close to 30 years, and then on the flip side, you start thinking about it like, man, 30 years, well, that's gone by pretty fast. So, it just means I've been around a lot of good people, around a lot of good players, and been able to put my stamp on a few things here and there. And the love of the game and being around the game and around the kids and other coaches and all has led me to this point. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of interesting stuff along the way.
I want to try and talk about as much of that stuff as possible today. But I always think the best place to start is the present. I want to – do you think you could just tell us what your job is as technical director at IMG Academy? What are your, specific responsibilities? How do you keep the wheels running?
There's a lot of things that occur here, as you well know, John. The place is a machine. It's only growing. Right now, we have we'll end up with about 150 kids enrolled for the next school year, which will fill 15 teams. If you did the math, 10 kids on a team, 150, give you 15 teams. We do all that on 4 courts here right now. We're building a new facility, which should open, the plan is about January of 2022, add 4 more courts, including an arena court that will have 13 to 1,500 seats. And with all that, what happens is you work from the top down. Brian Nash runs the entire basketball operation. From the minute he gets up in the morning to the minute he goes to bed at night, he's on go in a little bit of a different capacity than running a Division I program like he did and like I did. And then working with Brian and everybody else on the administrative staff here, we basically just have to keep this machine running. And it doesn't matter whether it's in season with the teams, practice, teams moving on and off the court, camp as we have going on now. If you have a coach who might be out for a couple weeks this year, I had, during the course of the year, I took a middle school team for a couple of weeks, moved in, moved back out. I took a JV team for a couple of weeks in the spring. I took a varsity team to a couple tournaments. And I think the best way to describe it, if you circle back to your description of what I've done over a period of time, you have a lot of basketball and real life and the business of basketball related experiences. And when you put all those together, it helps you not to be surprised by what goes on, whether it's one team and what they're going to do from a technical standpoint, or whether it's how we're going to move 200 kids around because it's raining and you have to put everybody on a bus like we just did about 45 minutes ago. So what my role does is encompasses a little bit of everything. I'm not one that sits in a closet and says, give me a practice plan, although I could do this. Give me a practice plan. Let me figure out what we're going to do today, and that's it. If there's something that happens or somebody needs help with, I'm willing to help out. For example, we spent, as everybody around the world did, the last 14 to 18 months or so in the COVID world. Mm-hmm. We had some incredible safety protocols here. One of those was from the time we opened back up in September until now, still going on, nobody fills their own water bottle. For what it's worth, believe what you'd like. You have a lot of kids, so we have to staff this area that everybody's coming through. Look, to me, and I'm going to digress and segue as I'm going to do about 50 times in the next 30 minutes with you guys. Hopefully you get a chance to talk and ask some more questions. But people would look at it and say, oh my gosh, I have to sit in a lobby and fill up water bottles for 14, 15, 16-year-old kids coming through all day. No, I sit out there saying, hey, here's an opportunity. It's like the glass that's half full and you're going to fill it up. Let me, while I'm doing this, ask Chaz a couple of questions that might lead to me getting to know a little more about him, his experience here at IMG being a little bit better. And then you just move those things, take a situation and a circumstance and make a positive out of it. So I'm involved in just about everything that goes on. But at the end of the day, we want to help all these kids have a great experience while they're here. We want them to get better, which is what they want. I'm helping the coaches have a great coaching experience, have them get better. I've been at a place where a lot of them would like to get to. Being an assistant coach, Division II, Division I, being a head coach, running your own program. And then helping administrators on the staff with stuff that they're doing, because I've done all that stuff in some capacity. And then helping Brian have this thing continue to grow and be as good as that can be in the big picture. So that's a brief synopsis.
It sounds like an incredible amount of management and time that goes into it. Sort of just how difficult can it be to try to get guys in and out of the gym when you have that many teams and now you're building a new facility, but with only 4 courts? I mean, we've heard time and time again that Josh Ozabor just doesn't leave the gym. So how is it able to get guys in and out of the facility to make sure that everyone gets enough practice time to really feel like they're putting in as many hours as they need?
It takes a lot of organization. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of cooperation. But at the end of the day, Chaz, if you say, oh, it's too difficult to do, and you let that sort of mentally shut you down or hold you back, it just doesn't work. So if you come in and say we didn't realize that the varsity white team was going to be playing the next day on court 4, so they should practice on that court, I'll just move around the gym. Just keep moving. Hey, we're going to put varsity white on court 4. You guys move over. Next group comes in. You go here. I've always kind of had the capacity to keep a lot of different balls. Like if you guys ever went and played bingo, you know, the balls are popping around in there, a lot of things up in the air, knowing that at the end of the day, it's all going to work out. So keep your composure. Don't freak out. Understand that it's going to be fine, but you have to have the experience and the capacity to know, even in circumstances that are best organized, there's going to be a little chaos, and just manage your way through it and figure it out.
I have to ask, with the building of a new arena that sounds like it's pretty much a college level facility, D1 type building, is there a name for it yet? Is there something already planned? Or?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, in the business aspect of IMG, I am certain that if there was the right figure that was brought forward to put your name on that building, you know, that could occur. But that's something I am not involved with. So right now, I would just say it's going to be IMG Arena. IMG is a big enough name to begin with. I don't know that there's always a way to feed the bottom line, but I don't know if the necessity for that exists. It's not as it is in a college program. It's one of the differences. There are a lot of similarities where you're always looking at those revenue streams to drive the funding for what you're doing with other programs. No, that's a good one. I don't know the answer to that. And I would imagine if the right opportunity came up, the right people would make that decision.
Well, I'm sure IMG Arena or the Ascenders Dome will stick for a little while at least.
Yes, somebody might come up with something. We were over, the WNBA was here all last summer and into the fall. We built a dome or a bubble next to the Performance Center on the West Campus. And we were in there for about 6 weeks at the beginning of the school year. And we kept searching for what that would be called. You know, and there's usually an organic development of a name for it. Just kind of never happened. So if you guys come up with something you think might work, fire it out there.
Send in our suggestions.
Yes, exactly.
Were you working with the WNBA, or was that outside of your?
Yeah, not directly. There were a few people here that on the staff that assisted with the management of the facility, and one of the things that was important, and there's some great media, a great documentary, a 30 for 30 on ESPN that was put together about their time here. It really, they were in a bubble, so they really wanted as little exposure as possible. And they came, we would see them. They were living in the villas on the other side of campus. The ladies would be riding bikes across campus. They'd come in and shoot, but we didn't come to the gym. They really didn't come into the bubble where we were. You would see them, but there was not really any interaction with them, no, for the most part. A little bit here and there. And then when they played their games, you had the ability to go, very limited capacity where they played, to go to a couple games here and there, but not really. Just, yeah, let's leave them alone. Let them get through their season. Let's respect their space and what they're here to do. And at that time, keep everybody safe as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that was a big big worry at the time with the bubble, and everyone talking about, oh, what if a bubble pops? Nah. I remember Eric Daly Jr. being very, very frustrated that his mom got to go to all the games, but he was not able to because his mom was helping out with the bubble.
Yep.
Speaking of COVID, one thing that a lot of people have written about was when everyone got sent home, all the schools had to send home all the kids, and the way that you guys at IMG were still able to deliver basketball training. My mom would tell me about it every day. I read articles about it. You can't Google. I put your name into Google, and I found 3 different articles talking about how you were helping record workouts for all the students that were sent home, and how you'd have to, adjust it for the students that didn't have access to a court or a net. How difficult was that challenge for you guys in the administrative staff when everyone gets sent home? What are you gonna do? What was the panic like? What was the vibe around the room or Zoom room?
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that really at the beginning was not basketball related. It was everything's going to close down in the terms of no one physically is going to come back to campus. But nobody ever said this is going to stop. The care for the academic piece, the development piece, and the basketball piece for all of these kids, we had to figure out a way, not just basketball, all the sports here at IMG, we had to figure out a way that we could continue to give them what they were used to getting as close to the level as they were used to, and dedicated professionals to make that happen. So let's figure out a way for it to actually occur. It took a lot of time, took a lot of brainstorming, a lot of meeting, a lot of ideas, a lot of attempts that failed, like all things. But what was happening also was there was a timeline. There was a deadline for certain things to occur. So what you're referencing, if we're going to put something together, and how are we going to present workouts to these kids? Well, here's all these ideas, great. But we have 2 weeks to actually come up with a plan, come up with something. And then we tried Zoom calls like this, where we would put a camera in the gym, have somebody recording the workout, and have kids dial in, and we would have 10, 12, 14 on there. And that had to be live. You could record it and distribute it. Okay. Then we tried recorded workouts, which we did end up using. And then we kind of went to this distance learning model where you could go on. I'll tell you what, I think I'm pretty tech savvy for my age, but I had to learn a lot about Zoom, iMovie, recording, audio levels, how you could split the screen, how you could edit stuff. So each one of us, there wasn't like, let's record this and then send it over to the digital team, and then they would pump out some stuff for everybody to see. There was record it, go back to it, edit it, figure it out, and then pump it out to everybody on whatever platform that we had. And because IMG is so much in the forefront of this stuff, we have platforms like Coach Now, where you can put all that information. The kids and parents could see it. They could utilize it. They could give us some feedback. This is good. This is not so good. Let's do this a little better. And as we went along, we just kept adjusting. We had a short-term plan to get it going, a mid-range plan to make it as good as possible, and a long-range plan to make sure we continue to present that to everybody on a daily basis, at least 5 days a week, until we got to the point where we're in camp and then coming back to school. So big challenges, a lot of work. And at the end, one of the things that happens is we did maintain the feel even though nobody was physically here, of never shutting down the basketball program at IMG, which went a long way towards us restarting as strongly as we did at the beginning of this year, continuing through the year, in the middle of the year, adding a lot of new kids, which led to a whole another group of challenges to being in the position that we're in right now. So we never stopped and then restarted. We just had to figure out a way to keep it going.
And then obviously the kids that are sent home, it's the challenges of giving them all the things that they need is difficult, but there are some students that were left on campus. How difficult was it to try to deal with guys like Musa and Josh who were stuck on the campus basically alone for the whole COVID time, and just having to work through that? And how many people could they really go interact with? Like, how many people were left on the facility to help them out?
At the beginning, the number is going to be not exact, but I'd say there were 10 or 12 kids that were still here. Over the course of time, some had the ability to leave and go home. Most of those international, like you mentioned, Musa and Josh, Pritham and Yaleti Reddy, who's from India, he got to leave for a short time. We had another kid, Gillian, Jai, who's from the Senegal, who's here all summer. A guy from Greece, a guy from Turkey. They ended up being able to go home at one point. But we put training times together for them so they could come into the gym. They could shoot. We had safety protocols in place. They weren't in here playing 2-on-2 or 1-on-1 or any of that stuff. So they could shoot, work out. The coach could come in, keep your distance, do it safely, and make sure those guys, they could get a lifting workout in. They could get an in-person workout in the gym. And in a few ways, it wasn't great for those guys because nobody wants to be stuck in one place for a long period of time. But they had people around them that this goes to what we were just talking about. So the kids that weren't here, they knew that aside from all of the basketball stuff and the school stuff, there was a caring that existed. And you could feel it through a Zoom call or something that was presented on one of the digital platforms. But those guys too that were here, they knew that people cared about them. And it allowed us to kind of set up what was going to occur when we got back to full strength too.
So you're currently running summer camp as it's IMG. There's always summer camps, tons of kids. I think you said this was the most kids you've had in a week so far. I wanted to talk about managing that while also looking ahead to the season. You've got, there's still challenges of the pandemic around. I know that some countries are still making travel tough. Recruiting is still a little bit of a mess. How are you able to balance working right now on the summer, but also looking ahead to, we've got regular season coming up in a few months?
Yeah, we still have all of the safety protocols in place that are required, and then some. So it's not just the kind of place where they look at the guidelines presented by the CDC, for example, and say, okay, we're following these. Yes, they're going to be followed, but there are additional ones that are in place that have proven to be successful that don't get removed just because somebody says you don't have to do this. And without the specifics, it's like, okay, we know this works, so let's continue to do this. Let's protect everybody, safety first, and then continue to do everything in a way that works, that proves to be working, that allows us to move forward. So this happened when we came back with the pods in the beginning of the school year. As we moved through the year, we had nobody from outside except opponents. No outside events, no camps, no anything. No parents at games, which was difficult. Mm-hmm. We got back to that toward the end of the year. But just the kids on campus. And as we move to now, it's do the work to make it happen safely and successfully, learn from it, and then prepare for what's going to be next. So we're using all these things to prepare, all the experiences to prepare for everybody coming back in August. How are we going to do it when the teams show up? We had a very successful spring where we were able to do some really good things for the kids that were here. And just be ready to go when August rolls around. And still, you have to be able to keep everything related to COVID-19 in your mind and accessible and pay attention to it because it's there. And until it's gone, it's not going anywhere. So I think we're all keenly aware of that.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, running camps throughout the summer, has there been things decided in terms of just your regular season coming up? Like, is everyone just going ahead like a full season as if everything was normal? Is there still a lot up in the air about traveling to and from throughout different states, or going to see different teams and tournaments and things like that?
Yeah, I would say, Chaz, it's going to be not back to normal, but we're on the road to normal, on the path to that. So last year we had very strict protocols about, for instance, when you got in a van, limited numbers in each vehicle, whether it's a van or a bus. When you got on there, you sat in one spot. Coaches would take a picture of what it looked like, and then when you came back, you sat in exactly that same spot. Are we going to do that again? I don't know the answer to that. Is the capacity of each vehicle going to be the same? I don't know what that is. That's based on what happens and what the guidelines are going to be. But whatever it is, we're going to follow it. And the same things, how do we travel? What's the exposure? By exposure, the exposure of all those outside variables to our coaches and our players. We took some teams to events last year. That was able to be done successfully. So with everybody else around the country moving back towards more capacities, more events, the high school programs will do that too. So we'll be right there evaluating it each step of the way. We'll do it safely, but we want to do as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. And then also IMG hosts a lot of events too, and a lot of tournaments themselves. Do you think you'll be bringing in as many people in and out of campus as much, or is it maybe we're going to focus more on getting our teams to be able to play all around, and then if we can have big events, we'll do that? But
yeah, we certainly want to get back to that because this spring we had no outside events here in the building. And normally what we would have in the springtime is you'd have just about every other weekend, there'd be a pretty big event here. So our teams could play. Then you look for one or two opportunities for those teams to go off campus to play in something else. Well, we wanted the teams here to play in the spring a number of times. So we had to search for them to go to these outside events because we weren't doing anything here. Even now, some of the summer events that they'd like to run here, we've got the construction project. So that means everybody has to come through the other side of campus if they were to come to the gym. We have 225 kids at camp moving back and forth. So you really don't want to introduce all those things together. So no events for the summer. Okay, now we're into the fall. Now this is one of the positives is it's not been decided, but somewhat been talked about. Like if the construction was done and everybody could come in and out on this side of campus, then maybe the discussion could begin about those outside events. And so we were just talking about this. In Bradenton, in local high schools, the Florida Association of Basketball Coaches just ran a phenomenal high school event. They had close to 100 teams. They ran it in all the local high schools, so it's occurring. We're not doing that here yet. So we're running, it's a little stricter than what the normal protocols are, but we do want to get back to that. How do we? We wait and see. We make sure we manage it properly, get this construction project done. So we'll get back to it at some point, probably not in the fall. But when we open the building and we get into the spring and things are on that path back to normal, I think you can look for some really exciting things. We do have and have been working diligently on some partnerships with high-profile organizations in the high school basketball space, the college basketball space, the international basketball space, and the AAU, if you want to call it basketball space, for them to bring their events in here. And those things will be off the charts good when that does happen.
Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was there was an Under Armour event held at IMG. I know that the coaches, Coach UJ loved it, and I bet all the other coaches loved it. I can't wait to see those back on campus again. Just a great way to get some high-level kids in, some good work in. I mean, I watched as many workouts as they would let me. It was awesome to watch.
Yeah, those and many more. And keep in mind, when the new building opens, the arena in there will have 1,300 to 1,500 seats. So if you want to have like a multi-team event, they're called exempt events for college teams. And you can play 3-4 games, only counts as one. You travel around. You see these things in Las Vegas. I took my teams at Longwood, and we have played some when I was working for Coach Ella George Mason. You go around. Corpus Christi, Texas, South Padre Island, Las Vegas, Chicago, and different places around the country. Everybody plays in them. Well, we're going to put one of those here. Imagine, you guys know, you come to IMG, you have the hotel here, you have the campus, you come over, 1,300 seats, the place will be packed, the environment will be off the charts, and it just continues to feed the basketball environment here on campus. So that's a small sample, but those are the kind of things, they'll be coming, and they're not too far into the future.
You're gonna have to fight me away with a broom. I'm warning you right now. I might live in my car out in Bradenton just to get to as many of these events as possible, because there really is nowhere like IMG in terms of just getting that atmosphere. Like, I've been to a ton of prep schools. I've visited a ton of prep schools. I did the prep circuit for 2 years in 2 different states. Went all over. There is nowhere where you get the same energy as you do at IMG.
A couple podcasts right from the baseline. It's a big time coaches in here. You can pull them on there. There you go.
Hey, I'm there. Dude, don't tempt me. Don't tempt me, Coach. I will be living in a parking garage if I have to. Do not tempt me. So for the listeners, I met Coach G this last Friday. I came to pick up my little brother Elijah from the IMG camp. By the way, he had the most amazing time. Thank you, Coach. One thing that stood out to me from the maybe 2-3 hours that I got to be on campus and watch workouts, of course after passing a COVID test and all kinds of other safety protocols, and it was also very evident from what Elijah told me, is just how positive and encouraging you are and how much of an effect it has on all the kids. The energy you bring. I was wondering how that plays into your philosophy as a coach. Is that something you've brought in later? Is that something you've always prided yourself on?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that I think I didn't have to really think about it. I think in the game, and I think this is true in sports, and this is no indictment of coaching style by any means, because there's a lot of successful styles that exist. I respect it and I appreciate it, and I think I do it sometimes too, but I'm not a huge fan of manufactured enthusiasm. Like, you can't put it in a can, shake it up, pop the lid, and boom, there it goes, because it doesn't maintain. It's not going to sustain itself over a period of time. But I do feel like if you're positive about what you're doing and your energy level is high and you have an appreciation for the work that people are doing, then what ends up happening is it becomes sustainable, and it's something that becomes contagious, and it's the way to go. And it doesn't also mean that I've never been negative or critical, especially in coaching, but if you come back around to the positives and you always look for and find them, it's going to be good for everybody in the long run. And one of the things for me was I always thought it was going to be best for me. That's the way that I wanted to handle it. So here's an interesting thing, because when I interviewed for the coaching job at Longwood, I sat in the office of Patty Cormier, who was the president of Longwood University at the time, and she asked me about this stuff, and she said, this is your reputation. You're positive, you're energetic, you're enthusiastic, you have great relationships with people. Explain that to me if you can. And I said to her, it's really difficult, because I could tell you all the ways that I think I do that, or I could explain to you the value in it. But until you actually see it for yourself and you can make your own judgments, it doesn't really have the effect. But here's what I'll tell you. And she had a glass there. And I said, and I had a bottle of water. There was water like this one. It's amazing how the virtual backgrounds, you can see right through it. So I'm still baffled by that stuff. So I had water stuff with me because I was in there for a while. I was doing a lot of talking. And she had an empty glass. I said, Dr. Cormier, can I see the glass? She said, sure. So I filled it up about halfway, like everybody does, and everybody knows the analogy. And I said, okay, explain to me what you see. And she said, oh, okay, it's a setup. I get it. It's a glass half full. All the optimists around the world see the glass half full. I said, yeah, that's exactly right. It's how I view it. So I picked up the glass. I drank the water. I put the glass back down. I said, now what do you see? She said, that's easy. The glass is empty. I said, that's the difference. And there's nothing wrong with it, because you're observing exactly what it is. What I see is the glass waiting to be filled up to the point where it's a quarter full, to the point where it's the glass half full. And then what we want to do here is we want to fill that glass with all these experiences from Longwood, the basketball program, everybody else, because I also think that the positive stuff, when you think like that, it doesn't just stay in a cone with a narrow focus. It lends itself towards you thinking positively and wanting to affect a lot of the other things that are around you. And the last piece to this, it's why, it's not me, it could be anyone, but it's why when you're in a circumstance like I happen to be in at IMG, and there's so many things that are going on and so many moving parts, if you're positive about the stuff that's happening, then it'll rub off on some other people. You'll be able to get some things done. You'll be able to massage some circumstances that might have some conflict in them if that arises. And it's just, it lends itself to a lot of things being done pretty well. And in fairness, if it would have been a little different, perhaps maybe I'd still be coaching at Longwood or somewhere else, because I could have taken a little bit of a different tact in some of those things. But it's one of the things I don't regret, and I don't take it for granted, and I don't say also this is the way it has to be. I just say it, and this is the way I operate. This is what I like to do. This is how I like to do it, and if it's not for you, that's fine, and we'll just keep it moving. So that's today's version of answer to that particular question.
And you did just mention you've been at IMG only quite recently now. In 2019, I believe you started. Can you just talk about what it was like to kind of get recruited to IMG? How did you get to be part of such a powerhouse program and come in and take over these kind of reins as the pulling the strings for so many different teams?
Yeah, I'd love to say I was in demand and this was something that somebody wanted to do, but not really the case. Brian Nash and I have known each other for a long time. Circumstance, timing and circumstance. It's really what it is. I was in a situation where after I was let go at Longwood, I went to FIU over there and spent 5 years over there. We got let go as a coaching staff, so that's what led me to doing some of the games on TV and doing some of that stuff, and see what can happen and get involved in a few different things. There were some coaching things that were going on that I thought might be good, and as this thing continued to grow, the necessity exists and continues to exist for more people to do more jobs, coaching jobs and otherwise, to keep it going. And Brian was looking for somebody to do this job. We started talking about it. He decided. I recruited him, and he decided, hey, I think this might work out well, and I'm thrilled to be here. So very appreciative for the opportunity. Me being recruited to this, no. Now, I will say this. One of the things I've done, and then I'm continuing to try to do now, is recruit more people that can have this type of positive effect on all these kids. So as we keep growing, we're growing here in a positive manner. So it's a little bit organic. You don't force your way into that stuff. But when somebody asks me, will you now be involved in this? Help us bring another good person into the basketball family at IMG. I'm going to do it and do the best I can, because I think I got a pretty good handle on how this thing is going to operate positively.
And I mean, you guys do a pretty good job. Every single player or coach we've talked to from the IMG program keeps pushing the same message of just family and brotherhood, and always just working together to be the best they can be as a team and as individuals. So it's definitely some positive moves being made throughout the organization and the program, and continues to grow. And as long as you keep bringing in the right guys, it seems like the sky's the limit for what the Ascenders can do.
Yeah, and it's an important note, the right guys. So the right guys and girls, when you go right down the ladder from the coaches, from the top-tier coaches, and they're all top-tier coaches, top-tier players, to the guys that are going to Division III programs or walking on to Division I programs, or might even go to junior college, what happens is there's a lot of hoop junkies at IMG. And when you're able to give the attention to the kids who are developing and are realizing their dreams, what ends up happening is everybody realizes the dream doesn't have to be, oh, I'm a starter at Michigan, or I'm going to LSU, or I'm going to be an NBA draft pick. The dream could be, hey, I want to be on a college program, and I want to experience the life of a college player, develop friendships that are going to last for a lifetime, a work ethic that's going to lead me to building a podcast empire like you guys are doing, or I'm going to value these experiences I get outside of the normal realm of things. Like I might go to Copenhagen for 5 weeks and figure out, how this all fits into the big picture. So this is what basketball and sports does for young people, and they're all important from top to bottom.
I appreciated the love right there.
Yeah, there you go, John.
Exactly my story, start to finish, right there.
I could have thrown a few Tilton references in there too, but one at a time.
It's not like I did. It's not like I did much in my Tilton year. But big love to Coach Marcus O'Neill up in Tilton. Definitely missed the work up there. I feel like it would be a disservice not to talk about your 10 years with the Longwood Lancers. You were their coach for their Division I inaugural season. You still have the best single season D1 record in program history. You have most Division I wins. Also, beat me to it. I have that written. I have it all written down. You had a 17-14 record, which is still better than anyone has done there. 10 years is a long time to coach, and in those 10 years, you went from D1, D2 to D1, and then D1 independent to joining the Big South Conference. So it was an interesting 10 years, in that there was a lot of change despite being at the same place. Can you I want to go a billion ways with this. I want to talk about the jump from D2 to D1. I want to talk about the jump from D1 to independent to being in a conference. I want to talk about just being in the same place for 10 years. Where do you want to start, really?
Yeah, it was a great time. I learned a heck of a lot about basketball, and you reference it in a really interesting way that is correct. There was so much change that the 10 years was not just a straight 10-year period. There's change everywhere. You could be at Texas for 10 years, and you might stay in the Big 12 and all, and you got some change in players and different things, facilities and all that stuff. But the changes that occurred while I was at Longwood made it be like it was different phases or eras within that time period. So I do want to be careful, because I think I did a fantastic job there. And I have no problem. Well, one of the things that happened after a couple of years, and I have a lot of friends in the coaching profession, and some are on the surface friendships, some are pretty good, and some are a little more. And one of the ones that's pretty good over time is with John Calipari. And it's not because he's the coach at Kentucky now or because he was the coach at Memphis. When he got started, and he got his first head coaching job at the University of Massachusetts, I was working as an assistant coach at AIC. You referenced that at the very beginning, John, right? We had a great team. We're in Springfield, Mass., and they were building a powerhouse program at UMass. They used to come and just stay in Springfield during Christmas breaks and practice in our gym, and I would open the gym every day and spend time around them, and I would just see those guys around a lot and develop a friendship and go up there, work camp and all that stuff, get to know people. And, well, the reason that I mentioned him is because one day I was talking to Coach Cal, and it was about 2 or 3 years after I was at Longwood. He said, listen, one of the things that's hard being a Division I coach, and it's even hard for me, is, and that was him talking, is you have to learn to be a shameless self-promoter. And it really is true. You're the head of an organization, and you're recruiting players, and people have to look to you as this thing that you're not. You're just a basketball coach. You're not any of these other special things, right? But in doing that, it does stick with you, and it's a quality that you have to build over time. So, and I only give a couple minutes to saying that, because when I'm asked this question about Longwood, it's sometimes a little difficult, but then I put that hat back on and say, you know what? I got to give myself some credit, because I did a pretty darn good job there. I went there knowing we were going to move from Division II to Division I. That's what they brought me to Longwood for, to make that transition effectively and to have us ready to participate at the highest level of college athletics, college basketball. Now, one of the things that happens these days is if you make that move, you cannot make the move without having a conference to participate in. So Tony Pujol at North Alabama right now is in the Atlantic Sun. Not eligible for the NCAA tournament, but they're already in the league. This happened with Bryant when they did it. When I went to Longwood, that was not the case. And I fully believed in a short period of time, by the end of our 4-year reclassification to Division I, that we would be in the Big South Conference. It was the target the whole time. It took 9 years. Like there was no rule. So we got to year 4 and 5. We had put a really good team together. We won 17 games after going 10 wins, 12 wins. We get to 17. we backed off a little bit. We had some super close games against high levels of competition. We never got back to 17, back to 10, back to 10. We finally got into the Big South, and we got that invitation during my 9th year there. So in my last year, and I'm going to tell you this, you guys this. The reason we got into Big South is because I did a good job with the men's basketball program at Longwood. Were there other factors? Absolutely. Were the resources in place to be a Division I program? Have we proven ourselves? Had the athletic director done a good job? The president? All those things true. But I was told directly, look, if you did not do the job you did with the basketball program, you guys were never getting in this league. That was told to me. So this is me being thank you, Chad. Shane, hey, look. And that's as far as that stuff goes, because the next year we got into the league. I thought I had put a pretty good team together. We were very young. We went into the Big South tournament. We won a game in the Big South tournament. We lost to Liberty the next game. A week later, I was fired. So what are you going to do? All good coaches are fired. So here I'm going to say I did a pretty darn good job. I put us in good position. I had good players. All those players left. And they got rid of me. That's what happens. That's the reality. I am not complaining. That's the ins and outs of it. I tried to give the kids that I was coaching there experience they would never forget for the rest of their life. We could not play in the Division I NCAA tournament. So what did we do? We went around the country. We played at Kentucky, at Florida, Boston College, Illinois, Providence, USC. The guys in my program over that 10-year period, we played against 50 players, 50, who played in the NBA, 5-0 over that 10-year period. So these kids played at Rupp Arena in front of 24,000 people. They played at Illinois when Illinois was number 1 in the country with D. Brown and Darren Williams and all those guys. Lost in the national championship game. We played at Florida, Chandler Parsons and all these guys all over the country. Were incredible experiences. So the last piece to that, and I could go on for 45 more minutes talking about all these great experiences. But here I thought was a pretty cool story that reflected what we built over time and what the experience for the players in the program was like. We played at Kentucky. It was 25,000 people. It was awesome. There was a guy on our team named Ryan Bogan, and he was an excellent three-point shooter, and he was making shots. We were in the game at halftime. We ended up losing by 25 points. Patrick Patterson, Jody Meeks, and some of these other guys, right?
Kentucky.
So Ryan's making threes, and I think we're on the foul line. He's out by the foul line area, and I was talking to him during the game. It's pretty loud. It's 24,000 people. During the spring, that following spring, I was in the Atlanta airport, and this guy said to me, I think it was recruiting because I was wearing Longwood stuff. He said, "Excuse me, you're the coach at Longwood." I said, "Yeah." I was at the game, Rupp Arena, and you guys played hard, and it was great. How was it for you guys, all those people? I said, "Man, it was awesome. It's Rupp Arena." He goes, "Yeah, I bet you guys never played in front of 24,000 people before." And I thought about it, and this happened instantly. I said, "Man, you know what? You're right. It was incredible." And let me tell you something. In our entire home schedule, in our gym that holds 1,800 people, we did not have 24,000 people in attendance all year long. And you had 24,000 at one game. And the guy was saying to me, "Yeah, see, we're Kentucky." And then I said to him, "But let me tell you something. In our game there, I was talking to Ryan Bogan when he was out by the foul line during the course of the game. And every home game we play at Longwood, and by the way, in the last 6 years there, we won 70% of our home games in just past. Right? So in every home game that we played, I could not have that conversation with that guy. He had to come over and be 3 feet from me because the place was incredible. The noise was bouncing off the ceiling. So I was explaining to him, this is what college basketball is all about. This is what the experience for these players was. They got to go to a place that was awesome. But they also, in their own gym, got to win a lot of games, beat good teams, and have an experience that was also incredible. And that kind of is the synopsis of that 10-year period. I was I was very proud of the accomplishments of the players. And even though I think I did well, it was all the guys, players and coaches, what they did to get us to where we got to. We accomplished what we wanted to. We got Longwood into the Big South Conference. We had some fantastic wins. Those kids had awesome experiences. And I do hope that at some point down the road, the players, and I have some guys, Antoine Carter is the all-time leading scorer in Longwood history. Maurice Sumter was the first really good Division I player in Longwood history, and these guys are not in the Longwood not in the Longwood Athletics Hall of Fame. And I can't understand why that's the case. I've been gone for 7 years now. They've been gone for more than that. They're eligible. They should be in there. So I want them to be recognized, and then I want Longwood and Longwood basketball to have some success that we set the table for down the road. My whatever I feel toward that is in the rearview mirror now. I'm pretty proud of what we accomplished.
Mm-hmm. I mean, hey, you will always be able to look back and see them in the Big South and know that was you. And we would love to get your former players on if we get them a little bit of extra publicity here. Float that out there if they're at all interested.
There are guys that will do that. There's a guy. It's an interesting thing. So you guys have this podcast, and I've done a number of these and different things, radio, television, and podcasts and different stuff. There's a guy who's a super fan. He came around to a bunch of our games. He started a Longwood Athletics podcast. His name is Ron Brown. He's had some of my players on, and I've talked to him. He said, "You got to come on." I said, "Ron, I want to do it." And I honestly now I have to get myself ready to do that. And it's been a long time ago, right? I've got to get in the right frame of mind. I'd go on anywhere or have some of those guys on to talk about stuff with anybody, but that one, got to make sure I do that properly, and I think you can understand a little bit why.
We'll be tuned in. We'll give it a share on our Instagram too when that comes out. I know you said you have to get running soon, so I was wondering if there's anything you want to put out before we close this down.
This stuff you guys are doing as part of the IMG family and having the opportunity to do it. Like, I'm around here with all these great people, Dan Bartow, and he talks about all these guys, and I'm just a fly on the wall. I listen. And then, John, you came through last week, and then he's like, "Yeah, this is John." I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute, I've heard about John, the podcast and all that." It's an awesome place. It's not a college program, but it's the closest thing to it. It's not a real regular high school program, but it's the closest thing to it for these kids. It's for the people working here and the kids playing here. It's incredible. And I think, it's just me now, seeing how this is going, that the connection through this kind of stuff and the different platforms that exist, all these connected pieces, and it doesn't mean you have to be Anthony Simons or Jeremiah Robinson Earl or KJ Martin. It could be any number of people, that the opportunity for these social engagements to be part of, like, the IMG stuff, they're a different thing that's going to explode. I'm really excited to see what happens. So when you said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" I'm like, I see this like from in a different area. So I'm super excited. I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to do it. And hopefully I didn't just go on too long about some abstract stuff there for you guys.
Not at all. Coach, it was absolutely amazing having you on. I can't thank you enough for it. This has been absolutely amazing. Trust me, everything was perfect. The best part is we don't have to add anything at the end, which is great.
I can't wait to do it again. Let's go.
I will get you back on. I will. I'm going to text you in a few months. I'm holding you to that.
I'll be ready.
If you have 2 seconds, I just want to say, how in demand is the IMG facilities in terms of just professional athletes that want to come work out and get the work in, because you have so much available to them?
Yes, it's interesting you ask that, because they want to come back in here. And much like the events want to come in here, and it will be, there's a plan to make that incredible as well. The decision was made, we're not going to have any pros in here right now. And imagine how great it is for those guys to come here because of the environment. It's great for the kids who are here to see them work out. John Morant is the last one that really, and he was here last summer for a couple of weeks working out with some of the guys. And so it's coming back in full force. How and in what fashion? I think it's going to be structured. There's a lot of conversations about the right way to do that and not have it just be, hey, it's not open to anybody, because it is getting to the point. I shouldn't say that. It's at the point, but it's getting more to the point where there's a cachet, there's a certain value aside from just what's here, in terms of strength and conditioning, basketball, and all that stuff. And we want to keep that growing too. You want to be the destination for all that stuff. So when it comes back, it's going to come back in a big way. It's just not happening yet.
We can't wait for it to come back. Definitely. Coach, this has been such an honor, such a pleasure. It's been so great getting you on. I haven't asked you if you have Instagram. Do you?
I have Instagram only to follow along a few select places. I post nothing. I think I have 4 posts on there. We took my daughter to dinner at the Versace house down in South Beach one time. We're in Miami. I put a couple pictures up, right? I'm like, Instagram. And shortly after, I bailed on Instagram. I go on there and see what's happening.
4 more posts.
That's it.
4 more posts than me.
We'll make sure to tag you on everything. Is there anywhere that we'll tag you everywhere? We'll have everything going so you can see everything and everyone can see you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I do have the Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I use that as information. So I'm on there. I think I'm at Mike Gillian. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So
all right,
that's it.
At Mike Gillian, I'll make sure to put that up on our Instagram. That's our main. My Twitter is pretty dead, but if anyone wants to follow my Twitter, we're getting that back up. To all our listeners, thank you for liking, subscribing, rating, and reviewing. It helps us. It helps us, man. And make sure to follow us on Instagram at Ball Talk Official. Make sure to follow Coach at Mike Gillian. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at JZSOCH. Until next time, thank you for tuning in to Ball Talk.
It's Ball Talk. It's Ball Talk, baby. 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 Baby, 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 baby.